Well, the next speaker, Dr. Sarah Kirchberger of Kiel University. I think, she's already connected to this conference room. So, Dr. Kirchberger, the floor is all yours. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the Indian National Maritime Foundation and Admiral Chauhan in particular for inviting me and being very lenient when I messed up my visa application process and setting up this digital possibility to present. I'm very grateful for that. And dear generals, admirals, excellencies, and distinguished guests and fellow speakers, it's a great honor to be here. I will now try to share my slides. Please let me know whether they come up.
Not yet.
Can you see my slides?
No, not yet. Oh yeah, it came. Yeah.
Did they come up?
Them. Yes, yes, we can see them.
Fantastic. So let me start with my topic. So I was asked to present on the darker side of China's maritime Silk Road. And as a national of Finland, an Arctic nation, let me bring in a perspective of darkness to China's maritime Silk Road that has probably not been mentioned in this conference so much. It's the Polar Silk Road. And I promise it does pick up on many of the themes that have already been mentioned in this fantastic panel, in particular, the aspect of undersea cables, for instance. So we had a recent series of incidents in the Baltic Sea in Northern Europe that are tied to China's maritime Silk Road in a curious manner that is not yet fully understood. And in particular, it seems it's connected to China's so-called Polar Silk Road, so the Arctic arm of China's maritime Silk Road. And as we know, that particular extension of the maritime Silk Road was pronounced for the first time officially in January 2018, when China also published an official white book describing this Polar Silk Road. And that was a curious moment because it showed clearly that Russia and China were really getting closer for real, because of course China could not have promulgated a Polar Silk Road without Russia sort of giving its consent to the whole concept and the whole ambition. It would have been a non-starter if Russia had immediately put down its foot and said, no way, we are going to condone Chinese maritime activities in our own sensitive Arctic coastal waters. So this was an interesting moment in time. And not a lot has been happening apart from LNG development and stuff like that. But now it seems that the Polar Silk Road has come home to roost, you could say, from the point of view of Europe. And let me just describe to you this recent series of events. I'm not sure how much observers in India have paid attention to the Baltic Connector pipeline disruption that we have just experienced in the Baltic Sea. It comes about a year after the famous, I think by now, Nord Stream pipeline destruction that happened, that is as yet still officially unresolved incident in the Baltic Sea. And now we had another incident, and in this case, it's much clearer what actually happened. So you can see on this graph that we had 3 officially announced damages. One, to a data cable between Stockholm and an island that belongs to Estonia. It's a data cable, a Swedish-Estonian data cable. Then we had the Baltic Connector gas pipeline that runs from Finland to Estonia, vertically, you could say, from north to east, completely destroyed at one point. And then to the east of that, another data cable between Finland and Estonia was also completely disrupted. So that was 3 interesting events. And as it turns out, it was damaged. All of these 3 distinct damages have been done by the same vessel, a vessel named the New Polar Bear, which is an ice-class container ship that apparently dragged its anchor over the seabed, over this whole distance, and with its anchor managed to destroy all of these maritime infrastructures. So why do I mention this in terms of dark aspects of the Chinese Maritime Silk Road? It's because it involves a couple of dark things. It involves vessels going dark, which means switching off their transponders. It involves dark or opaque ownership relations of the vessels. So who owns them and who actually controls them. And of course, it is a dark hour for the protection of maritime infrastructure. So I wanted to bring this up. Note, please, that the water depth in all of these instances is between 60 and 80 meters deep. And all of it happened between the 7th of October and the 8th of October, so within one day. What's interesting also is that the damaged pipeline, the Baltic Connector gas pipeline, was damaged exactly where it crosses the famous Nord Stream pipeline. So the location of the damage is this exact point where the Nord Stream pipeline crosses the Baltic Connector pipeline. Of course, it's probably purely coincidental, but that is just a fact. And it happened in the middle of the night, 1:20 a.m. local time. We know exactly when the pipeline was ruptured, by the way, because the impact of the anchor that tore away the pipeline was so strong that it caused a minor seismic event that was recorded. And so we know exactly that it happened at 1:20 a.m. in the middle of the night. And we know it was this vessel, the New Polar Bear, and its anchor, because the anchor was ripped off upon impact with the Baltic Connector pipeline and came to rest on the seabed. It was brought up and thoroughly investigated, and paint from the anchor was actually found on the pipeline damage site. And the New Polar Bear afterwards was photographed, seen missing an anchor. So it's pretty clear that this vessel is the culprit, and there's no ambiguity whatsoever about that. So I have some photographs here that show on the left-hand side how the New Polar Bear anchor on the port side. It has two anchors, both weigh about 6 tons. Usually looks like, this is a photograph that was taken earlier. And on the left-hand side, not sure if it comes up clearly, but this is a day after the incident when it was moored in St. Petersburg. And there it shows not an anchor, but the anchor chain dangling loose outside of the vessel, even though the ship is moored port side. So that's one part of the indications. And then later in the months, about the 22nd of October, when it was already traveling in Siberia, it was seen that actually this port anchor was missing. So the smoking gun, you could say, has been found. Also, one could see shifted containers on the left, indicating that there was quite an impact also on the ship that led to the containers being shifted. In case you are wondering how a ship can sustain such damage or can withstand such forces that must have been working on the ship, it's an ice class container ship. It has the highest ice class, so its bow section is reinforced for breaking the ice, and that probably made it less risky to use such a vessel for a sabotage act. But the ship was also escorted by another ship, a Russian one. So the New Polar Bear is Hong Kong flagged, a Chinese vessel, you could say. That was the big surprise in this whole scenario. All of Europe is used to Russian disruptive activities, but we are not used to having a Chinese ship acting like a rogue in our waters. So that caused a lot of consternation. And then it turns out it was rendezvousing with a Russian vessel, the Sevmorput, which is an ice-breaking and nuclear-powered cargo ship operated by Atomflot, which is, of course, Rosatom, so state Russian actor. And these two vessels moved together while the new polar ship conducted all that damage. So let me show you the situation on the 7th of October when the two vessels started moving together northwards through the Baltic Sea. And then you can see a little later when the first data cable was damaged on the 7th of October afternoon, how the Sevmort put became closer to the new polar bear. And then they closed in on the Baltic Connector pipeline, and during the time of the event, they were basically on top of each other, traveling side by side. What is not shown on the slide is another vessel, a Russian flag vessel that went dark, that switched off its transponder and hovered exactly over the Baltic Connector pipeline the entire time during which this incident happened. So it came there on the 6th of October and just hovered over the pipeline with its transponder switched off, perhaps marking the point or whatever. We do not know that yet. It's still unclear while this happened. And then, of course, the two vessels also traveled in tandem over the data cable. All of the details of this incident are still being investigated. The Chinese side has a claim that it is willing to cooperate with the Finnish and Estonian authorities investigating the incident. And the really interesting question right now is, will China really fully cooperate in clearing this incident up, trying to clear China's name? By the way, this would indicate pointing fingers at Russia for utilizing, I'm sorry, for utilizing a Chinese flag vessel for such a grave incident, or will China obstruct the investigation? So that